Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today we're going to be talking about the newest album from Blackberry Smoke, titled Holding All the Roses. You know, I don't tend to talk a lot about southern rock, and really that even surprises me. Inspired by blues, country, and hard rock, three genres I really like. It was most prevalent in the 1970s, from the country rock scene originally driven from, say, the Allman Brothers or Leonard Skinner. And from there, it's been around for decades in scattered acts that do accrue a fair amount of popularity, spanning Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, to Kid Rock, to the genesis of sludge metal. As such, it falls into a bit of a weird niche, typically landing on classic rock radio or some of the harder-edged country stations. Never quite reaching the peaks of the 70s beyond some scattered success from a couple acts. You can almost argue that it's gone underground, but it's less of that and more like other genres like bluegrass or grunge or some offshoots of punk. It's just not as popular as it once was and ends up catering to smaller, more cult fan bases. And that's not saying that there aren't some southern rock bands that are worth following. Case in point, Georgia band Blackberry Smoke, affiliated with acts like the Zac Brown Band and Eric Church. If you're looking for an act that would define modern southern rock, a distinctive country twang matched with groove-heavy hard rock, Blackberry Smoke would be that band. And for the most part, they're a pretty damn solid band. The melodies are very prominent, the guitar solos are great, Charlie Starr's vocals has some real flavor behind them, and with every single record, the songwriting was steadily getting more nuanced and distinctive. If I were to pinpoint an early weakness on this first few albums, it'd probably be in some of the lyrics. Not that they were bad for the genre, and that some of the material began to run together a little bit. And like most hard rock, sometimes the sleaziness of it all could get a little bit obnoxious. But their 2012 album, The Whippoorwill, was their best yet, and I was curious to check out their 2015 record, Holding All the Roses, especially when it managed to top the country album charts last week. And sure, country's been slow thus far this year, but to think that the album that had enough here was from an independent label without a huge single tearing up the radio, that was promising, especially considering this album had notched some real critical acclaim behind it. So I decided to check it out. How is it? Well, actually, it's pretty damn great. Hell, I'd probably make the argument that over a decade into their career, Blackberry Smoke has probably made their best album yet, with some serious improvements across the board in all the areas where they really needed it. As such, if you're looking for a slice of textured, bluesy southern rock bursting with real ideas and smarter lyrics than you'd ever expect coming from these guys, Holding All the Roses by Blackberry Smoke definitely delivers, and it really did catch me off guard in the best possible way. Oh, I like this album. Now, the best place to start with here would be in the instrumentation. And it's clear that a shift over to a new label has done the band some real good. Sharpened up the more indulgent tendencies in their song construction to something that's a lot tighter. Blackberry Smoke has always had a knack for melodic construction, and yet simply through quicker tempos and better writing means they can ram together fast-picked guitar solos and grooves with a lot of efficiency. Even better is the production texture, especially in the warm acoustic strumming and the solos especially, clearly highlighting with the bass and the percussion just adding enough of a thicker foundation to add some real heaviness to the songs, and the organ and the keyboards adding some real subtle but definitely appreciated harmonies. And while I do wish the bass had a little bit more pluck and prominence, I can't argue that some of the grooves on this album are some of the band's best. And there are a lot of instrumental moments here that I really did like. The acoustic accents, the explosive roiling solo on Let Me Help You, the phenomenal interplay between the fiddles and the guitars on the title track, the traditional country composition paired with chunky guitars and rockabilly keyboards and rock and roll again, the excellent fluttery bluesy slow burn of Too High, the thick smoky sizzle of Wish in One Hand, a rattling acoustic groove of No Way Back to Eden. And then there's Woman in the Moon, which took back the spacier psychedelic sounds that are steadily growing more popular in country music these days and paired it with this thick measured groove and waves of gleaming strings, and it makes it wouldn't sound out of place in 70s progressive rock. It's entirely unique and it's beautiful. It's easily one of the best country songs I've heard thus far this year. It's a good sign that Sturgill Simpson's influence is starting to bleed through into country music, and one of the few places where the vocal layering actually works pretty damn well. Yeah, if there is going to be a production issue that I do have with this album, it's going to be here, and that while some of the vocals are great, recalling a lot of vintage hard rock in the vein of, say, Deep Purple or 80s Whitesnake, the vocal pickup has a distinctive compressed texture to it that doesn't always fit with the rest of the composition. Sometimes it feels a little bit buried in the mix, sometimes it just comes across as a little bit flat, but especially when it's paired with a backing chorus that sounds even thinner, it just becomes very easy to ignore the vocals and just focus on the guitars, which was plainly the intention of the production considering how prominent they are, especially especially considering how the textures on the solos are so much more vibrant and sharp than many of the tracks are as a whole, which I gotta admit is a little bit distracting. But you know what, I'll admit it's a bit of a shame that the lyrics are being de-emphasized on this album, and not just because of Charlie Starr's voice, but because his lyricism has improved by leaps and bounds. Previously, my biggest issues with Blackberry Smoke is that they tend to tread some fairly well-established ground for Southern rock, but as they took steps to correct this as early as the first song on this album, when it's clear they're setting up the tone to really change things up. And not only has the technical writing gotten better in terms of the rhymes and the flow, but the band opts to go for broader, more nuanced, even more abstract concepts in this album that shows a lot of maturity. Now, sure, you're gonna get songs like Payback's a Bitch, Angle at an Ex-Girlfriend, or Who's Cheating Who riff on the Lay It All on Me, but for the most part, even when the stories are here, they are more complex. The meta-commentary of living in a song, where he watches what could have been a love story in music fizzle out in real life. The kiss off on Wish in One Hand to a vain asshole who's trying to be the center of attention. Most of these songs are rooted in themes of not exactly getting everything that you're hoping for, but instead getting what you deserve, for better or for worse. And really, this underlying humility and hard honesty does a lot for this record on a broader level. Songs like Too High, they face impossible challenges, and the surprisingly daring No Way Back to Eden questions real redemption, implying that there are often scars from the past that don't always get washed away, if they even can. From that point of view of Blackberry Smoke, we're all searching for the truth, trying to find that special wish, a little bit damned for it, but we all know that, and we're still trying to get by regardless, even if it's not destined to work in the end. It's one of the reasons that I really love Woman in the Moon so much, where it takes that barely defined journey, perhaps for vaguely defined love or fulfillment or real purpose, and sketches out how daunting that journey, that adventure can be. And while I don't quite love the ending song Fire in the Hole that ends out this record, I do love the moral behind it. The relationship that it describes can be rocky and frustrating, but you know what? That's life. And really, the protagonist on this album wouldn't want to have it any other way. And I kind of really like that. In short, man, this album was a great surprise. Outside of a couple nitpicks that I do have, Blackberry Smoke dropped an insightful, well-written, genuinely tight Southern rock record that keeps a very solid clip and shows even more promise for the future. Not only does it show a band that's really maturing, but refining and purifying their sound and showing they're capable of building off of an incredibly solid core. For me, easy 8 out of 10, and definitely a recommendation if you're looking for a damn fun, kick-ass country rock record. And for those of you who wonder why I've been as hard as I have been on Brantley Gilbert or Eric Church before, well, records like Holding All the Roses shows exactly how damn great Southern rock can be, and you all need to check this out. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. If there's anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, or any of their albums coming out that you want me to take a look at, I'd be more than happy to give them a listen. Until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.